Well, it seems like Super Wild Card Weekend actually lived up to its name for NFL fans.
Yeah, it sure did. And the good news is there is still one more game to go. That would be Monday Night Football. But let's talk Sunday night's Bengals-Ravens game. It came down to the wire, and the game ended with a Hail Mary pass being broken up in the end zone, sealing Cincinnati's win over Baltimore. It was a nail-biting finish, coming on the heels of Jacksonville's dramatic victory over the Chargers on Saturday night. The Jaguars kicked a last-second field goal to win the game 31-30.
And if you want to know why everyone's talking about that game, it was because the Jags were down 27-0 during the second quarter. Joining us now to look at what happened this past weekend, as well as what's yet to come, Sam Fortier. He's a staff writer covering the NFL at the Washington Post. Hey there, Sam. Let's begin with tonight's matchup. 30 years since Dallas has won a playoff game on the road. Tonight, the Cowboys are in Tampa. They're going to try and take on Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. I know who our executive producer is rooting for, but I'm wondering who you think is going to win.
Yeah, I think this is a really tough, close game. The Cowboys are favored at the sportsbook by 2.5 points, but it's a really interesting matchup, I think, particularly between Dallas's defensive front, one of the best in the league, coached by Dan Quinn, who's a hot name in the head coaching market. And, Tom Brady is the quarterback of the Bucs, one of the best of all time. And they haven't been throwing it as deep as they did his first 2 years in Tampa Bay, but they have been throwing it a lot. So is the offensive line going to be able to hold up? They've lost 3 of their starters from the last 2 years, but they do get Ryan Jensen back, the center who's been with Brady his entire time there and is a Pro Bowl caliber player when healthy.
All right, Tom Brady, not as deep, but more frequent. That's an interesting stat there. Crazy weekend of playoff football. In the AFC in particular, talk to me about what you see as the biggest statement win of the weekend, and who are you most excited to watch moving on to the next round?
Yeah, I got to say Cincinnati really stood out to me because I thought that Baltimore, with its backup quarterback, was going to take that game, but defensive end Sam Hubbard comes up with the fumble and takes it 98 yards for the touchdown. I believe people in Cincinnati are calling it the Hubbard yard dash, which I really appreciate. So I'd have to say the Bengals, Joe Burrow, are really exciting. Obviously, Buffalo and Josh Allen are quite good as well, but they also nearly lost to a backup quarterback. So I'd have to say, even though the Kansas City Chiefs didn't play last weekend, I think that they are still probably in the driver's seat for that conference.
Yeah, really interesting that all these backup quarterbacks were really having their opportunity to shine over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the backup in the NFL is all relative. I mean, like, all these guys are real good. They're real good.
Speaking of guys who are real good, NFC, you were actually at the game in Minneapolis when the Giants pulled off a victory against the Vikings. They were on the road. How big of an upset was the Giants' win? What was it like to be there?
It was an incredible atmosphere. I'd never been to US Bank Stadium, but it was, they really lean into a lot of the Viking stuff with the big horns and the drums. But to me, it was a real signature moment for Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. The New York Giants obviously brought in a new regime imported from Buffalo, their head coach, new general manager. And those guys basically said, hey, Saquon and Daniel Jones, we don't necessarily believe in you. They didn't extend Saquon. They declined Daniel Jones's 5th-year option. So it seemed like this may have been their last year with the team, rebuild. But now they've really put, the Giants, I think, in a difficult position. Do you want to commit to those guys long term? So that was a really fascinating dynamic at play after the game.
Yeah.
All right. Sam Fortier of the Washington Post. Appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.